So hello and welcome. Hi Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
That's all right. Nice to see you.
So Lisa is the founder of Soundproofbox, CIC. Can you tell us what is Soundproofbox? Why did you set it up?
Wow, right. Why did I set it up? Well, Soundproofbox, probably best to explain what it is. So, we are an organisation and we support survivors of domestic abuse around education, really. So, we have three key parts of the organisation. The first part is education. So, we work with schools, colleges, youth centres, you name it. We work with them on identifying and understanding and spotting the red flags early on in unhealthy relationships. We do that through the medium of theatre. So working with actors to act out a play that is theatre in education. We have a healing arm. So there's part of the organisation where we focus on healing. We work with associate counsellors, hypnotherapists, psychotherapists, retreats, all sorts of things to support survivors. And then the final bit is we support workplaces. So a lot of the time survivors are going into the workplace and they are unable to work. They may be off sick, and it's getting managers and HR people to understand how they can support, what they can do, and spotting the signs as well. So they're three key parts of our organisation.
Fantastic, there's a lot there. And I understand that you've recently returned from a wonderful reception at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yeah, so our show Red Flags are about coercive control. We took it up to the Edinburgh Fringe and we received a really great reception. The BBC did an article on us, and the Home Secretary is keen to see it as well and promote what we do. So I had a message from her team last week to say that they knew about the show, which is great, and they are championing it behind the scenes. So there we go.
That is fantastic. So why did you set it up in the first place, Lisa? And why did you choose the particular medium of theatre?
So life, I started life off as an actor, and I then went into leadership development training, corporate coaching and things for 25 years. And I had my own experience of coercive control. And whilst I was going through this, or towards the end of me exiting the relationship, I sat down with my daughter and I thought, you know what? I want to look at a younger generation. I want to go into schools. I want to talk to people in a way that's engaging about domestic abuse. So I said to my teenage daughter, how about I come into school and I do talks about domestic abuse? And her answer was, oh no, Mum, no one wants to see an old lady with a PowerPoint. And she said, Mum, you've written 2 books. You used to be an actor. Why can't you just write a theatre show? I was like, do you know what? I think you're onto something here. She said, but don't make it a full end-to-end play that we've got to sit and watch for an hour and a half and it's boring. Make it interactive. So the rest is history. That's what we did with the show.
And do you give her royalties?
No. Yes, great.
This is excellent. So, and I'm so glad and excited that you're going to be a speaker at the Speaking Out conference in October. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But this is aimed at getting employers to come along and listen to our fabulous speakers. For you, Lisa, what would you say to people who are maybe sitting on the fence or who are thinking it's not relevant to them? Why should they come to this event?
It absolutely is relevant to everybody. It's a societal issue. And I say this, it doesn't matter what walk of life you are in, domestic abuse will touch you or a member of your family or a friend. It's absolutely integral that everybody is aware of it, because people need to become more active in bystanding, not just stood there and not doing anything. It has an impact on homelessness. It has an impact on drugs and alcohol usage, mental health, homelessness, unemployment, you name it. It has an impact on all of those things. That's a societal issue. So it does affect absolutely everybody. And if we've got employers in the forum, for me, I had an international career. I was really quite successful and actually just hit the pinnacle where I was given head of learning and development for an organisation. And this happened and I had a breakdown. I couldn't work. I felt people didn't understand. I didn't feel comfortable talking to work about what was happening. I was confused. And that kind of I left there, and then I ended up working elsewhere. Same thing was still going on, still happening. And my career kind of took nosedived, and I bounced around from organisation to organisation where I hadn't prior. So my CV took a real battering, and I have a lot of experience and a lot of great stuff, but I just wasn't able to hold down a sustainable role because of it, because I was being controlled.
Yeah. And did you get, it sounds like you didn't, but did you get any form of support, or did anybody recognise what was going on? Did they ask you questions?
No, no one recognised it. It was actually my solicitor who pointed it out and asked if I'd had some, when my divorce solicitor asked if I was getting some counselling and support, and I said no. And then I realised, as soon as that penny dropped, it was like, okay, how can I help employers understand? And actually, that's how Soundproofbox started off. We didn't start off with a theatre show. We've evolved into that. We started off supporting workplaces in understanding how they can help people at work. Having champions, we all have mental health champions in the workplace. So having an extra module that is understanding domestic abuse on that mental health first aid workshop is really useful. Yeah, I just didn't feel supported. I don't think they recognised it. But in fairness, nor did I.
Yes. Yes, that's the thing, isn't it? So many people experiencing domestic abuse don't even recognise it, because there's this myth, isn't there, that domestic abuse is coming to work with a black eye, or taking time off because you've got a black eye. You don't want people asking questions. But there are so many different formats, aren't there? Invisible formats.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I've had 2 relationships. I think in my early 20s, I was in one that was quite violent, but it wasn't until I'd come out of this second one that I went back in my thought process, because I had a lot of counselling, and gone, okay, that first one was really abusive as well. And he hit me, and I did have bruises from the first one. Second one was more emotional and psychological.
Yeah. And so often we put up with this stuff, don't we? And whether it's because we've been taught that as children, or in other stages of our lives, it's that, like, treading on eggshells, pussyfooting around, those compromising, all these things that actually maybe sometimes women or men think that they have to do just to keep the other partner happy.
Absolutely. And, it's not unusual for somebody to be locked out of their own home and have to get up the next day and go to work.
Yeah.
Mentally, that does something to you. So if you've got a member of staff that's coming in dishevelled, not looking how they normally would look, then it might be that there's something going on at home.
Yeah. And what should employers do?
Reach out. I would say, if it's a manager or HR person, don't say, you've been abused at home, but ask if everything's okay. Is everything okay? Keep that dialogue open as possible.
Yeah.
One of the things that we advocate at Soundproofbox is that we train up managers on having these open dialogues and conversations so that people can come back, and having posters on the toilet doors that say, this person is trained in having these conversations. You can just go. Things like hygiene packs at work as well in toilets. You do get them in some organisations, but a lot don't provide them. It's embarrassing if you've had to sleep the night in your car and go into work the next day and you don't feel great. If there's a hygiene pack there, you can do things discreetly.
Yeah.
So there's things that organisations can do to support. And actually, one of the things I heard from one employer, I'm not going to name them, is that still going on? Yes, it goes on for months, for years, decades. People don't always leave, particularly with coercive control, because it goes up and down. It can happen. Yeah. Everything can be lovely, and then all of a sudden it spirals out of control. Then it's all good again. So people don't necessarily leave.
And there's financial control abuse, isn't there? So you might not even have the means to do that. That's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it might be that you're paying all your wages get paid into a partner's account. And actually, that's something when I train HR staff up, I will say, do they have their own bank account, or is their salary going into a bank account that is somebody else's?
Yeah.
Are you in the recruitment process when you're asking for things like certificates and passports and they can't provide them? It might not, or it might be that they've had them taken away from them.
Yeah. I'm often asked, well, what's the point of you doing all this because it's not going to make any difference? What would you say to that, Lisa?
It is absolutely is going to make difference. And if we look at seatbelt culture, so we have seatbelt culture in this country where everybody, as soon as they get in the car, I say everybody, I would say about 98% of people in this country, when they get in their car, they put on their seatbelt. I want domestic abuse to be as in the spotlight and under the cosh as not wearing your seatbelt. So if you don't wear your seatbelt, you're in trouble, and everybody else will tell you off. Everyone else will say something about it. I want that spotlight to be on domestic abuse to make those behaviours unacceptable.
Yes.
And, it's almost like a movement, and it is spreading at the moment. And I do have a group of friends. Maybe it's because I work in this environment, but we spot things a mile off. And I can remember being in a restaurant a couple of years ago, and some girl was there with a boyfriend, and he was carrying on. I'm really sorry, he's very hot-headed, and she was making excuses for him. And I said, no, darling, he's an abuser.
Yeah.
He wasn't there when I said it, but I said it to her. Yeah.
That's the thing, and I like the analogy of the seatbelts, because these days, I think the majority of cars, if you don't put your seatbelt on, an alarm will go off. So if we made it so that, as you spotted in that restaurant, when we see signs, red flag warnings, alarm bells will go off in somebody's head, and they'll feel able just to ask the question, is everything okay at home? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I do think also that sometimes we read the statistics, and it gets hot, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. But I personally think that we all have got something to contribute to this. And as you say, it is a movement. And the more that people speak out about it, so it stops becoming seen as normal and acceptable, the more we speak out about it and call it out, I'm sure that things will start to happen. And it's great that the Home Secretary has been in touch with you. This is what we need to be doing, is raising awareness at the highest levels. But even so, on a local level in our community, we can still do so much, can't we?
Everyone has a responsibility in their community to call out that behaviour. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons, we work with workplaces is because we need that level of support. People want to stay in work, and that's one of the biggest fears for victims of domestic abuse, that they feel like they may lose their job at any point in time. They lose their job, they lose their financial independence, and possibly even an escape route. But the other reason we work with schools, on the other hand, is if we can get to young people early on with this movement, with this mindset that actually it is unacceptable, those behaviours are not the right behaviours to be displaying or putting up with or dealing with, that actually these are red flags. If we can get in early with early intervention, we are less likely to see people going into adulthood engaging in these relationships, or if they do, they won't stay very long because they'll already have the education that says, oh, that was a red flag. Because I saw that show that Soundproofbox did, and they showed me that they were the red flags.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's really amazing what you're doing. And it may be early days. I know you're just still reveling in the glory of the Edinburgh, which is fabulous, and take some time to do that.
You called me a celeb last time we spoke, and my daughter's eyes rolled in the background. It was like somebody else had said it that day, and she was like, "Oh, seriously? You're really big over this Edinburgh Fringe business."
You do need to give yourself a big pat on the back, for everything you've done, and you do need to notice these moments, don't we? That's the thing. However,
keeps calling me giant ego. That's what I'm getting now. I think she's just a bit upset that she's not taking any credit. Although every time I do a podcast interview, I do mention it was her inspiration behind it. Yes. So
we say don't mention the royalties. What I wanted to ask, as I said, you might not have thought this yet, but what the big plans are? Because it's just you and your team doing this, and there's the country, the world? What's your thinking?
Yeah, so so it's in steps. So the plan for next year is to take it on a national tour, subject to funding. We do have some for West Yorkshire now secured, so we can start the tour in West Yorkshire. We have had interest over in the States, so I will be doing a train the trainer out in the States to enable them to deliver it out there. But the longer term plan is to have a licensing model so that people can pay for the license to run these shows, whether they're a charity, a theatre company, and they get all the resources that come with it. So we're looking for licensee, our ambassadors, more than licensees, they're going to be ambassadors that spread this across the world. We're about to get it translated into Urdu and Punjabi. And then someone in France has just asked if we can get it translated into French as well. So there's lots of scope to get it translated. So that's the long-term plan, that we have ambassadors across the world that deliver this.
Yeah.
The theatre shows and our workshops as well. And then working with associates on healing programs as well. So working with psychotherapists, counsellors that want to offer time at a kind of a reduced rate to enable people to recover after being in these scenarios. Yeah. So the plan is to grow the education piece on a licensing basis, bring more people in as associate psychotherapists, counsellors, and offer kind of retreats as well. Yeah, and then the workplace stuff will evolve from there as well. Workplace is quite small at the moment in terms of our client base, but we'd love to build that up. And again, the only way we can spread this is by bringing on associates that will spread the word in the way that we want, in the Soundproofbox way, really.
Fabulous. And so how do people find out more? Can you tell your website? Can people go to your website?
Yeah, we are all the W's and soundproofbox.org. That's it.
Soundproofbox.org. Okay, so it's all one word, .org. Excellent. That's brilliant. And of course, they can come and see you and hear you at the Speaking Out Domestic Abuse and the Workplace Conference, which is on 23rd of October in Scarborough.
Brilliant. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm delighted you come in. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks, Rose.
Lovely to speak with you.